lot of who he is and how he accepts. See, I don't know about you and I don't know about your sin, but I know about mine. The thought that he accepts me despite all that I've done.
Yes.
And despite all of my history, I'm thankful. I am thankful. So we're going to go to part 7 of the journey through the book of Zechariah. The inquiry, should I weep in the 5th month and fast as I have done for so many years? As I said, I put chapters 7 and 8 together because it's one theme of Yahweh having been inquired of by the priests of Israel. The question is asked in Zechariah 7 and 3. Should I weep in the 5th month and fast as I have done for so many years? But then Yahweh replies to them in a very Hebrew way. In Zechariah 7 and 5, he says, speak to all the people of the land and to the priests, saying. Now this is what a Hebrew does. You ask a question, they ask you a question. You ask another question, they ask you another question. You can literally sit and speak with a rabbi or a teacher of the Torah, and all you do is ask questions. And as you're asking the questions, your questions are being answered. That's what a teacher does. Because a teacher is always trying to get you to think.
Yeah.
So if a teacher is constantly giving you the answer, then are you truly thinking for yourself? So Yahweh goes on and he says, when you fasted and lamented in the 5th and 7th months, all these 70 years, did you truly fast for me? And then he says, for me? That's, like we look at people and people say something to us and we say, really? Really? For real? Yahweh is doing this. He's saying, did you truly fast? Were those fasts that you were doing during the time of your Babylonian captivity? 70 years you were fasting on your face. But were you truly doing it for me? For me? It takes us right back to the reason the Most High set apart the day of fasting on the Day of Atonement. And I spoke and taught on this during the Day of Atonement a couple of years ago, Isaiah 58 and 6. And he specifies, Father Yahweh is very specific in his feast days and in why we do certain things around those times. Could it be that there's something within the elements that happens? And therefore, if we're doing a certain thing, it causes other things? A chain reaction? Only Yahweh knows that. Because why? He's the great and sovereign creator, architect of this universe. So he says in Isaiah 58 and 6, is this not the fast that I've chosen? To loose the tight cords of wrongness, to undo the bands of the yoke, to exempt the oppressed, and to break off every yoke. 4 things. Yeshua came in the 4th day. Isaiah 58, 7. Is it not to share your bread with the hungry? And that you bring to your house the poor who are cast out? When you see the naked and cover him and not hide yourself from your own flesh. Yahweh says, that man's flesh is your flesh. That's your brother. Yahweh goes on to say, what you ate and drank while you were 70 years in captivity, was that not for you? You weren't eating and drinking for the poor. That was sure. Because if you were eating and drinking for the poor would have been eating and drinking along with you. Then he reminds them of the reason why they were scattered into Babylonian captivity. The Most High continues to tell them that even while they were in captivity, they didn't get the concept of what the fast was for. Even in captivity. So, my question while reading this portion was, why is this priest inquiring about something that was common even through captivity? Why would he ask, Father Yahweh, should I weep in the 5th month and fast as I've done so many years? So let's look at what's happening. Let's look at what Zechariah is dealing with. He is part of the exiled community that's coming out of Babylon, going back into Jerusalem. He's part of his father, his grandfather, his father Edu, and Ezra, Nehemiah. All of these men are part of that group that's coming out of the Babylonian captivity, been freed, and are now going into Jerusalem. So during that time that they were in captivity, they were trying their best to do as they did when they were in the land, much like what we have to do now. We try our best to walk out the Torah. We try our best to keep the Shabbat. We try our best to keep the set-apart days. We try our best to live as a community and to be righteous, be people of a righteous walk. And that's what they tried to do. So my question was, why would the priest, being a priest, knowing the traditions and the customs of Israel, why would he ask that question? Should I fast? Should I weep in the 5th month, as I have done for so many years? We're going to find out. True judgment. Zechariah 7:9-10 says, thus said Yahweh of hosts, 4 things Israel is commanded to do to execute right ruling, show kindness and compassion, everyone to his brother. Do not oppress the widow or the fatherless, the stranger or the poor, and do not plot evil in your hearts against one another. This is the reason they were taken captive. The prophet Jeremiah spoke concerning all these things. How they would have people enslaved, Hebrew slaves, and they would be in there longer than the 7-year period. They were not releasing the slaves as they were supposed to. They were not taking care of the widows. They were not taking care of the orphans. They were not executing true right ruling. And what Father Yahweh was saying, you are to execute right ruling. You are Torah observant people. You're a Torah observant nation. But they continued to be boastful in their unwillingness to execute right ruling, and were ultimately taken into captivity by the king of Babylon. Yahweh is preparing them to be restored. So you know what happens? What's happening here, Father Yahweh, in them preparing for Israel to be restored as a nation, they're going back into the land. The priests, the first ones back in the land, were those who had to build up the land. Those who had to be prepared for all of the remnant of Israel to come back. So all the priests were sent. The Levitical priests, the Kohanim. These are the people that went back into Jerusalem to help rebuild the wall and to also rebuild the house of Israel. So, before that could happen, the people must return to the Torah. So he put the Torah teachers back into the land. Now he's teaching. Ezra, the prophet, is teaching the priests and bringing clarity to the Torah, making it eminent again within the house of Israel, because now we are no longer bound. Now we're free. We need to know how to walk this out properly. This is where we are today. We were bound and now we're free. So now we need to know how to walk this out so that when the influx of Israel begin to come, we can be teachers. We can be those examples of how you walk this out. But only through the Torah can you give right ruling and judgment. So he says, show kindness. This is how Israel was broken up. Israel was broken up because the northern kingdom just didn't fall and bump their head one day and say, I don't want to be part of you anymore. But what happened was a breach within the love. They lost love. Judah was supposed to be the kingship. Judah was supposed to be giving right ruling and executing judgment properly, and they were not. They were harsh to their brothers in the north, and their brothers in the north got angry. But let's not forget about what happened with Shalom and how the house of Israel was divided after his reign because of strange gods and strange women. That always got Israel, and it's getting us still today. Strange gods and strange women. So when we see the northern kingdom finally pulling out and saying, you know what, I've had enough. 922 BC, I've had enough. You tax us harshly. Then we come down into Jerusalem and you tax us again. They were doing all sorts of things that they shouldn't have been doing as the kingly tribe. So when they split, there was lost love. So what Yahweh is telling the priests, as they're going back into the land, now they're free. And they're getting ready to walk this thing out and bring Israel back. It's going to be a nation again. And Yahweh says, understand me, the 4 things that I call you to do. This is why I even call you to fast. Because I need for you to remember what you're supposed to be fasting for. That if there are any bound, that they need to be free. If there are any yokes in Israel, Father Yahweh, destroy the yokes. This is what we should be praying as Israel. But so many times we get caught up and you don't say the name the way I say it. You don't do your women don't wear head coverings. Your priests, they wear head coverings. Y'all are priests and we're masters. Y'all doing this over here and we're not doing it. We get caught up on things that have absolutely no bearing on relationship. We can get along better with people at work who we have absolutely nothing in common with, and not get along with our brother who keeps the holy days, walks the Torah, keeps the Sabbath. How is that? This is the exact same thing that happened with Israel. So as the priest asked, should we still fast in the 5th month, like I've been used to doing these 70 years? Should we ask? Inquire of Yahweh, should we do this? And Yahweh says, you know what I want you to do? Because all that fasting that you did, you still didn't have it right. Because you're still asking me the same question. You're asking me that question. So that means you didn't get it right. This is what I want you to do. I want you to execute true right living. I want you to show kindness and compassion to everyone, to his brother. I do not want you to oppress the widows or the fatherless or the stranger or the poor. I do not want you to plot evil in your hearts against one another. So Father gives them that basis. And that's what he tells them after he asks that question, should I fast? So let's look at the fast, because that's the thing that came up in my mind. I said, wow, what are these fasts that it's talking about? So I put a little chart together up there. It's kind of small, but I'm going to read it out to you guys. And it's the fast spoken of in Zechariah. It's the fast of the 4th month. And I'm kind of jumping around Zechariah right now, okay? So I'm not going like, progressively. I'm going kind of bouncing around, because there's a theme and there's a point to what Father Yahweh is trying to say to them. So there were 4 fasts that Father Yahweh brought up in the book of Zechariah in the 8th chapter. And those 4 fasts was the 4th fast, which was the fast of Tammuz. The 5th fast, which is Tish B'Av. And then there was the 7th fast. We know what the 7th fast in the 7th month. What is the 7th month fast? Yes, I should hear that nice and loud. Okay, and then the next fast is the 10th. The 10th fast, the fast of Tabit. So let's just take a look at the first fast. Tammuz. The 17th of Tammuz. The tablets were broken on that day. The regular daily sacrifice ceased in the temple. And then Apostomus burned the law and introduced an idol into the set-apart place, and breaking into the city by the Romans. So that is the fast of the 4th month. Now, during the time of Zechariah, the latter half would not have happened yet. But how is it that these things all happened on the same day within the same month? You think there's something to Father Yahweh's appointed times? The 4th Tammuz at the time of Zechariah would have been when the tablets were broken by Moshe, and then the regular daily sacrifice in the temple ceased. That would have been the destruction of the first temple. Now, the reason that Israel fasted on these days were because of special events that occurred. And they would fast to remember those times. Now, the Tish B'Av is a very important day, because when Tish B'Av, that was the 9th of Av, just about every really bad thing that happened to Israel happened on Tish B'Av, on the 9th of Av. It was decreed that the Jews who went out of Egypt should not enter Palestine. The temple was destroyed for the first and second time. And then Bethel was conquered and Jerusalem plowed over with a plowshare. Now there's something else that goes, if we go back. The regular daily sacrifice ceased in the temple during the fourth fast, or the 17th of Tammuz. And then on Tish B'Av, in the 5th month, the temple was destroyed. On the same day, both temples of Israel were destroyed. Then the 7th, of course, is Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, where we see, and you shall afflict your souls, your beings, so that the individual may be cleansed from their sins. That's Leviticus 16, 29 through 31, and then of course 23, 27 through 32, and then Numbers 29 and 7. This is the only fast that is absolutely ordained by Yahweh, commanded that we must do. That's the only fast that we must do. And there's a reason that I'm bringing that out to you. The 10th Tabit, the 10th of Tabit, in memory of the siege of Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. And you find that in 2 Kings 25, 1 through 2, Jeremiah 52 and 4, and then Ezekiel 24, 1 through 2. Now, there are more than 25 fasts that are traditionally done in Judaism as a whole. Some are kept as tradition, some are not kept in all communities. On a regular fixed fast days, the Jewish calendar has comparatively few. Besides the Day of Atonement, which is the only fast day prescribed by the Mosaic Law, Leviticus, we see that Leviticus 19 and 29. I'm sorry, 16 and 29. They use those Roman numbers, and I gotta stop and figure it out. And then there was established after the captivity 4 regular fast days, as I showed you, in the commemoration of the various sad events that had befallen the nation during that period. So we see with the 4th month, the fast of Tammuz, the 5th month of Aviv, the 7th month of Tishri, which is Yom Kippur, and then of the 10th month in Tibet. According to some rabbis of the Talmud, these fasts were obligatory only, and this is what I want you to hear, only when the nation was under oppression, but not when there was peace. So they added those fast days to go into supplication and prayer before Father Yahweh only during the time when they were under oppression. This is the reason that the priest asked that question. Should I keep the fast of the 5th month? Interesting that he asked about the fast of the 5th month, because it was the 9th month when he asked Zechariah. So the fast of the 5th month he was inquiring of, because that was Tish B'Av. That was the big one, where the temple was destroyed. So he was asking, that's the reason that he asked, go and inquire of Yahweh, should we fast like we fasted the 7 years? So they give some clarity. And I pulled that from JewishEncyclopedia.com with that information concerning those fasts. It's out on the internet, so you can pull that up if you need to. Now, let's go into Zechariah 8 and 2. Thus says Yahweh of hosts, I shall be jealous for Zion with great jealousy, with great wrath I shall be jealous for her. So I was looking at this and I thought, okay, but in chapter 8, Father Yahweh goes to the extreme to say how he's going to deliver Israel from their captivity and bring them back to the land, make them whole, and be their husband again. That he is going to dwell in the midst of Israel, and there will be happiness and there'll be joy. And so I'm thinking, what in the world? This chapter, this verse 2 didn't seem to fit to me as I was studying this. So I thought, let me go and break down these words. So the words I have in color up there, the first, jealous, is Brown Drivers Briggs, Hebrew Concordance, and Strong Dictionary, H7065, jealous. And it means to execute zealousness, have a zeal, or to be overly excited about something. And then he goes on for Zion with great jealousy. And that word, he used a little different term. As I was reading this, I thought I was going a little crazy. And I thought, okay, Father, this is one of those times where I had to stop. And I had to turn away and say, Father, help me not to be thinking in my own mind, or to bring you to a place of common thoughts of this particular thing that I think you're talking about. And I went on, and that second jealousy that's in green, it is Brown Drivers Briggs, Hebrew Concordance, and Strong's, H7068. And the word is kinah. And it means of a jealous disposition of a husband in a heat of passion. So I said, okay, let's go a little further. With great wrath, he says, I am jealous or zealous for her. And that's Brown Drivers Briggs. He goes back to the first one, which is a zealousness, or to be excited into zealousness. And then the word, I look, Father speaking concerning, he's looking and speaking concerning the love and his desire for his bride. That's why it didn't fit. Because when you say somebody's jealous or they're coming to have wrath upon you, you wouldn't think that they want to come and love on you. You think that they want to come and kill you. You know what I'm saying? That's why it didn't fit within there. But then I looked at the word wrath. And that is Brown Drivers Briggs, Hebrew Concordance, H2534. And the word is kanah. Kemah. Kemah. Everybody say kemah.
Kemah.
Kemah. And this word is related to H3179, yakam, and it means to be in a passionate heat. I'm just going to leave it there. So as he's speaking to his bride, he is telling his priest, don't oppress the poor. Don't oppress. Do right by the widows. When you get in the land, do give right ruling, truth and right ruling. Make things right with your brother. Be at peace and love your brother. Why? Because I am coming to take my bride. And I have a zealousness in this time that I want to come and I want to be with my bride. The Most High is in his great compassion for Israel, returns to the land that he owns, because Israel, the people, are ruling as a righteous nation, Israel, the land of Jerusalem. You have Israel, the people, Israel, the land, ruling, Israel, the people, ruling with the Torah, Israel, the land. Which he then doesn't call Israel Zion as he goes further down past 8 and 2. He now calls Israel, he calls the land Zion Yerushalayim, which means teaching of peace. Yaru, teaching, as in waters flowing forth of peace. Now the land is teeming with the inheritance of Yaakov, and with Yah Elohim as our king. The Most High says that he is saving Yasha, which means to be saved or delivered. His people, which is Yeshua, our salvation and deliverance. From the land of the sunrise and the land of the sunset. In other words, from the east to the west, he's delivering his people and bringing her back into the land. So he was being careful to tell the priests, when you go in the land, do these things so that I can come and I can dwell with my bride. So Zechariah goes on, in Zechariah 8 and 8, he says that I shall bring them back, and they shall dwell in the midst of Yerushalayim, and they shall be my people. Thank you, Father. Yes. And I shall be their Elohim in truth and in righteousness. This is the promise of the return of the exiles. Hallelujah. This is about our return, y'all. This is about us.
Oh, yes.
But that we first have to be in a place where we love, and we are in love with each other so much that we will not oppress the widow, the orphan, the stranger, the poor, that we will share our bread with our brethren, so that they are not poor, so that we can pray for the bonds to be those who are bound to be set free, that the yokes will be loosed from the neck of Israel, so that ultimately Father Yahweh, our husband, will take us with that seed and be our husband and dwell in the land that he has given us. This is not just about waiting for the exiles to come back in Zechariah. This is prophetic for the exiles that are going to be brought out of the nations. Hallelujah, that Jeremiah talks about. So let's look at Zechariah 8, 11 through 17. And it says, but now I am not as in the former days to the remnant of this people, declares Yahweh of hosts. Because of the sowing of peace, the vine does give its fruit. Hallelujah. That's what the land is prepared to do. But the land can't do that until Israel as a community takes the Torah, understands it, learns it, and goes back into the land to be the bride. And increase. The ground does give her increase. Hallelujah. And the heavens do give their due. And I shall cause the remnant of this people to inherit these.
Hallelujah.
And it shall be, as you were a curse among the Gentiles, O house of Yehudah and house of Israel, so I shall save you, and you shall be a blessing do not fear. Let your hands be strong. For thus says Yahweh of hosts, as I purposed to do evil to you, when your fathers provoked me, declares Yahweh of hosts, and I did not relent. So again, in these days, I have purposed to do good to Jerusalem, and to the house of Yehudah. Do not fear. Now, can we all read this together? 8 and 6 and 17. These are the words you should do. Here we go. Speak the truth to one another. Judge with truth and right ruling, for peace in your gates. And do not plot in your heart, evil in your heart, against another. And do not love a false oath. For all these I hate, declares Yahweh. This is why Israel went into captivity. Because they were lying, cheating, and stealing on each other. On their brother. On their brother. But Yahweh says, all of these things I hate, so don't do it. Because why? I need to dwell with you in the land. And when I bring you out from the nations, from the far east, from the far west, and bring you back into the land of teaching of peace, you will truly be teaching of peace. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
So, pleasant appointed times. Hallelujah. Truth and peace. The fast will be done with joy and gladness. In those days, 10 men. Let me go back. Zechariah 19. I'm going to go Zechariah 19 and then read down to 23. Thus says Yahweh of hosts, the fast of the 4th, and the fast of the 5th, and the fast of the 7th, and the fast of the 10th months are to be joy and gladness, and for the house of Yehudah, and they shall love the truth and the peace. Now, did you see anywhere in there where Father Yahweh prohibited them from doing any other fast other than Yom Kippur? We see anywhere in there? Now, this is a sidebar. I'm going to just throw this in here. Because we have many people within the Hebrew walk that's completely dead set against birthdays, celebrating anniversaries. But what we see in this is that if you don't break the Torah, if there is no prohibition to it, then it's okay to do. He had them said the fast of the 4th month, the fast of the 5th month, the fast of the 7th month, the fast. He didn't tell us to do all those fasts. But they do them. Why do they do them? Because there's special events, that special things happened. When did we get so self-righteous? When did we get so self-righteous? That we want to do like a Constantine thing, or what's that, Eusebius? Which was the one that castrated himself? Oh, so righteous. Oh, so righteous. Yahweh didn't tell you to do that. You did it on your own. And you did it trying to show yourself more righteous. So, what we do is we go around and we then want to point the finger at our brothers. And that's why I'm bringing this up. Because in Israel, it hurts my heart when I see other people of Israel beating down other brethren on something that's just theory and theology. Something that's halakha. Something that is not stressed in the Torah. Father Yahweh takes the time to give us absolute details. If he wanted to deal and tell you, do not celebrate birthdays, I believe that the Yah of hosts would have said, I don't want you celebrating birthdays. Could he not have said that? He could have said that. They were celebrating, we see Abraham celebrating the birth, the weaning of Yishak. Big, huge celebration. That ain't in the Torah. You think they want to bring Abraham to contempt? That's not in the Torah. But he did it. We see everywhere it says, and the days in the life of so-and-so was 175 years. Somebody was counting. Somebody was counting. So what this is telling us is that if there is no prohibition, 25 fasts. They were doing 4 fasts at this time during the year. 4. Not just 1. Now if they did the other 3 and left off the Yom Kippur, now you got a problem. Because you're not doing what I have commanded you to do. If one of y'all decide that I want to get closer in my walk with Yahweh, I'm going to fast every Wednesday. I'm going to pray. That's my day off from work. I'm going to use that day to pray and stay in before Father Yahweh and just fast. I just feel like I want to do that. Who am I to come to you to say, you can't do that? We only fast on Yom Kippur. What you doing all of that for? It's none of my business. That's between you and your relationship with the Most High. So it's the same thing with other things that we celebrate. You think Father Yahweh wouldn't want you to celebrate that you have been in a relationship and have been married to a person for 50 years? He celebrates everything else. He celebrates all good things that he places in the times that he chooses to place them. He says, this is going to happen here, and I want you to celebrate. We don't know why Father Yahweh has us celebrate those specific times. They may have been great times throughout his time. You know what I'm saying? So I want y'all to say, I want my people to celebrate along with me, because this is when this happened, and this is when this happened. But what we do, we get so estranged from each other for non-significant, insignificant things that are not going to bring us together as Israel. And this time is very, very important because the enemy wants to keep us divided. Because you think he doesn't know that Yeshua's return is imminent? You think he doesn't know? That's why everything is going so crazy now. The word says it's going to seem that in those last days that evil is going to abound, but Yahweh's grace will abound even greater. We have to understand the time that we're in. So we have to remember, that's my brother. I love him. I'm not going to oppress him. If they need anything, I'm here now. That's my sister. That's my sister congregation. That's my sister assembly. You know what? If you believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, if you believe, you know what? We can only go by those 4 letters that he gave us, Yod, He, Vav, He. That's all I see in the Torah scroll. We have a Torah scroll. So I can look at it and see that there are no vowel pointings in there. It's just Yod, He, Vav, He. So if you know that's Yod, He, Vav, He, whatever else you put in there to try to pronounce it, baby, I'm good with you. If you're keeping the Sabbath and keeping the set-apart days of Yahweh, then you know what? You're my brother. Why would I want to do any evil to you? So then he goes on to say in Zechariah 23, well, let me go on down to 20. And he says, thus says Yahweh of hosts, people shall yet come, the inhabitants of many cities, and the inhabitants of one go to another, and the inhabitants of the one go to the other, saying, let us earnestly go and pray before Yahweh and seek Yahweh of hosts. I myself am going, and many peoples and strong nations shall come to seek Yahweh of hosts in Jerusalem, the teaching of peace place, and to pray before Yahweh. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, in those days, 10 men, 10, from all languages of the nations take hold, yes, they shall take hold of the edge of the garment of a man, a Yehudite, and say, let us go with you, for we have heard that Elohim is with you. That's what people are supposed to see. They're supposed to want to grab hold to you and say, I know you're doing something. There's something different about you. I believe that Elohim is with you. So let's look at this 10. Why does Father use that 10? And when we see the number 10, we always need to remember certain things. We need to remember with the number 10, judgment or deliverance. One of the two. Either you're getting judged and it's bad for you, or you're being delivered and it's really good for you. So when we think of the number 10, the 10 northern tribes of Israel, the 10 lost sheep of the house of Israel that Messiah spoke of, the 10 plagues of Mitzrayim, the 10 words, the commandments, the 10 women baking bread in one oven, that's judgment. Okay, the 10 times that Israel tries Yahweh in the wilderness, the 10 sons of Haman that were impaled and judged because of what Haman did. They were on the stakes. The 10 days that Daniel and Hananiah and Mishael and Azariah ate only vegetables and water, they received deliverance. The 10 silver coins of a woman who was to be wed, and how she tore up the house when she lost one. Yeshua said, I have not lost one. He came for the 10 sheep, the lost sheep of the house of Israel. The 10 leprous men who Yeshua healed. The 10 virgins that Yeshua spoke of in Matthew. And then the 10 horns on the beast's head of Revelation. Judgment or deliverance. Every time we hear the number 10, we should think of those things. So, finally, the beautiful thing that happened during the time that Messiah is speaking in the book of Mark, there's a beautiful thing that happens. That he goes from those who are his blood relatives to those who are his blood relatives. Matthew 12 and 25. And it says, and Yeshua knew their thoughts and said to them, every reign divided against itself is laid waste. And every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And this is what Yahweh knows. And this is why he spoke to the house of Israel. This is why he spoke to the priests during the time of Zechariah and said, get it right. Be in love with each other to the point where you will have righteous right ruling. So that I can dwell. Because guess what? I can dwell in a divided house. And I want to return to Israel. And that's what he was saying to them. So Yeshua goes on, Mark 3, 24, 25. And he says, and if a reign is divided against itself, that reign is unable to stand. And if a reign is divided against itself, that house, if a house is divided against itself, that house is unable to stand. So what Yeshua is saying to us today, in this beautiful depiction, because after he speaks these words, they come to him and they say, Messiah, Rabbi, and your brothers, they're outside. And he looks around and he says, who is my mother? Who's my brother? And then Mark 3:35, he says, for whoever does the desire of Elohim is my brother and my sister and my mother. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.